Hey mamas, how's it going? How's your week been? I know it's Memorial Day weekend, and so we're all probably, hopefully, having a little bit of fun and hoping having a little bit of family time and stuff. I don't know what your plans are, but I'd love to know. So hit reply in this email and tell me what you're up to this weekend and how things are going. I'm super excited, and this is going to sound so silly, but I'm super excited because my hair is in a ponytail. Can you see? I have not been able to put my hair up in months. If you guys look back on my profile pictures and stuff, my hair is like super duper short. Like I cut it to here to my chin. Um, and I did that because I was wearing mom bun like every single day. I don't even think I brushed my hair. Like seriously, I'd get up at 3 in the morning with my kid and it would just be like on top of my head. And it was lucky if it was clean. So I was like, okay, there has to be a way to get over this. And so I just chopped it off and it wouldn't go in a ponytail. Um, but now I can finally put it up. So I'm trying to make a promise to myself that I'm only doing like ponytails or mom buns every so often. But just having the option to put it in a ponytail is huge. So I'm excited about that. Tell me what you're excited about. Are you excited about mom buns and ponytails? But in all seriousness, today we're going to talk about some topics that are a little deeper. And then hopefully we'll be able to address some of the stuff that is holding you guys up. So I want to talk today about the barriers. Either the barriers to entry of why we struggle to even start our businesses, or some of the barriers to growing our businesses and growing our companies. Because a lot of times, especially as mompreneurs, we sit here and we think of a lot of the ways that this isn't going to work, or the ways that we are fighting against the external and how we can move forward and how we can battle that stuff and come back and be successful, because ultimately that's what we want. We want a successful family life and a successful business life. And I think a lot of the times we think that it's outside forces that are our barriers, and outside things that are keeping us from reaching our goals. And maybe this is all the distractions that we have throughout the day, or just the demands that are placed on us. If it's the kids running in and out when we're trying to work and trying to really focus, or if it's something our husband needs right when we're in the middle of a big presentation, or really deep in a project and we have to come out and break our concentration, or we look around and we just see everything that's not being done around the house, and so it makes us feel guilty for pursuing our business when we aren't making our homes the way that we want to, or keeping things to the level of tidiness or whatever that we want to keep. And so I think that a lot of us focus on that. But I'm going to challenge you today because a lot of that is really superficial. It's really those surface level things that our mind sees as a reason to stop what we're doing and to go ahead and shift our focus. But a lot of times, that's really just an excuse. And I don't mean that to be ugly, but what's really going on is there's some deeper internal stuff, some fears that we have, or some internal struggles that we're having that are keeping us from really moving forward. And I've seen it time and time again that a lot of times when we're focusing on the surface, it's because we're ignoring what's down here and what's really deep and what really needs our attention. And so I want to address some of these kind of common barriers, but I want to give you guys solutions, and I want to give you ways to break through those, so you can finally chip a hole in the wall and eventually just bust through it. So I think one of the most common barriers for moms and mompreneurs is that we don't necessarily know our why. And by why, like capital WHY or whatever, I mean our deeper purpose. A lot of us are like, yeah, I'd love to make some extra money on the side, and that's why I'm starting this business. Or I need something to occupy my time during nap time or after the baby goes to sleep because I'm bored. And so that's why we jump in. But again, that's a surface level why. So I challenge you to go deeper. And what's your real why? What's your real purpose? And so the tip I have for you to do this is when you're thinking about your why, sit down and think about what the real personal reward will be for you when you reach your dreams. And that's not having the side income or the extra money, and that's not having the bragging rights. It's what really is deep inside of you that you will feel has been achieved when you meet your goals. Will you finally feel complete? Will you finally feel worthy? Will you finally feel valuable? What are those things that are keeping you where you're stuck, and what would you do and how would you feel if you found out your real true purpose? Okay? The next barrier that a lot of moms fall into and a lot of mompreneurs fall into is you either don't see the value or you don't know how to ask for help. And I know I'm preaching to the choir here because I never ask for help and I never involve people in my personal business because I feel like I should be able to handle it and I should be able to achieve it on my own, and it's no one else's concern. I don't need you to be my knight in shining armor. You know, I got this, I'm strong, I can make it work or whatever. But sometimes that's silly because sometimes there are people who are just more talented in one area than we are, and that's not a bad thing. If you've gone through and you found your why, that'll help you figure out what your real talents are and what you're really giving to the world and offering the world. And maybe for you, that might be one thing, and you know somebody else in your circle who's really great at this other thing. Maybe you're a fantastic writer, but you're terrible at video. But you know somebody who is a great video editor. Well, then why would you spend hours and hours of your time trying to edit a video when you know somebody who's fantastic at it? And maybe they need you to help them write their scripts. So you guys could swap services or form a really beneficial, mutually beneficial collaboration. So asking for help can go so far. And one trick I have for this is, again, searching out your circle. Just make a list of everybody who you know. And this doesn't have to be just in the business world. This can be your best friend down the street, or this can be your cousin, or this can be your sister or your mom. What are they great at? And how can they help you get to your next level? All right. The third one, we're getting even more deep and even more personal here. The third one is you have not made it easy on yourself. Right? Who's going to make this easy on you but you? No one else is going to be, handing things to you. So how can you make things better? How can you make things a little bit easier? And here's the analogy that I have for this. The first time I tried to cook Thanksgiving dinner for my family, like I was so excited to be hosting and I was so excited that, I was cooking and I got to show off my kitchen and my dishes and all this stuff. Again, superficial, right? That I just started, like I grabbed the bread for the stuffing and I grabbed the turkey and I grabbed the cranberry sauce, and I didn't ever think about how long things needed to be in the oven for, what kind of things went in on the same temperature and around the same time frame. All of that prepping and planning ahead. So again, I did not make this dinner easier on myself, and I'm sure you can see where it's going from there, is that things came out and they were overdone or underdone. Things were not hot. Things were basically a ginormous mess, and it was so frustrating, and I felt like the biggest failure. But had I made it easier on myself, had I planned ahead and had I looked at the ingredients and looked at the recipes and things like that, I think the dinner would have been so much more successful. So that's my big tip for you with barrier number 3 is, how can you make things easier on yourself? How can you look ahead to the details or think of all the little pieces that need to fall in place, and how can you tackle some of those ahead of time? Or if we go back to number 2, how can you ask for help on some of those things, especially if it's not something that you're really successful at? So making it easier on yourself. And a really great way to do this is to make an action plan. And if you go onto the blog, there's a post about how to make an action plan you'll actually follow, and I've got a 7-page workbook for you that's in that post. Or if you just want the workbook sent right to you, reply to this email and just say, hey, I'd love that action plan workbook, and I'll go ahead and I'll send it right over to you. So barrier number 4, you haven't worked through your baggage. And this is a big one, because there are things that could have happened to us or been said to us in childhood when we were 5 years old that we're still walking around with, and that are still making us question our worth, and are still making us question our ability to succeed. And so I think about this, like, imagine if you were like, you really wanted to be a singer, and it was your passion, and you were kind of just belting out a song, and someone was like, you probably, shouldn't be singing. You're not that great of a singer. Or just something just snide. And it probably came from their insecurities, or it probably came from the fact that they didn't like that you were so passionate about something. But instead of being able to see that for what it was worth on them, a lot of times we internalize that. And so some people will just stop singing that very day. And they'll never pick up a microphone again, or whatever it is. And so what baggage are you walking around with? And when you're abandoning your goals and you're saying, oh, I don't need to be working on this project because the dishes really need to be done, or my kids keep running in and out and I don't want to set boundaries and tell them to stay out. What baggage is really going on underneath that? What is making you question your worth and question your value, that you are worth setting those boundaries, or you're worth pursuing your goals? So a big tip I have for this is get an outside perspective. And a fun way to do this is to imagine somebody that you love unconditionally. Maybe it's your children, maybe it's your best friend, maybe it's your spouse, and they came to you with a dream and a goal, and they said, Mom or honey or whatever, I want to be a singer. How would you encourage somebody that you love to go after that dream? What would you say to them? And then flip that around on yourself and use those exact phrases and those exact words for you. And show yourself that unconditional love and show yourself that value. And finally, the last barrier that we're going to talk about today is that a lot of times what keeps us from pushing forward and what keeps us from just sprinting toward the finish line is that we have not done enough self-care. And we're burnt out and we're stressed and our cup isn't full. And so we're trying to pour from our cup into everybody else's cup, into the kids' cup, into our husband's cup, and then over here into the business cup. And by the time we get to this cup over here, our cup is empty. So we need to be able to do enough self-care that we feel fulfilled, that we have more to give, because our dreams and our goals are worth it. So here's where we're going to get into this, and this is what we're going to be talking about all next month. But my tip for this is to create an ideal schedule. And by an ideal schedule, I mean the perfect schedule. If there were no barriers and no distractions, what would your schedule look like? And that needs to include self-care time. Okay, I know that's a high-level concept, and a lot of you are saying, like, yeah, right. But every single week next month, for the month of June, we're going to be talking about scheduling. And I am bringing you guys so many freebies and so much awesome stuff. June is my birthday month, and so I figured if I'm going to be celebrating, you guys should be celebrating too. So make sure that you're opening all your newsletters in June, because that's where you're going to get your freebies and your awesome discounts and your links to all kinds of fun stuff and events that are going on that month. So keep in mind that creating an ideal schedule needs to have self-care time in it, and that will be what helps you achieve all of your goals. All right, again, reply to this email and tell me everything that you're thinking, and how did these barriers affect you? What did it sound like to hear some of maybe your internal stuff spoken out loud? Where are you struggling? I want to know.